Hello, and welcome to the Advanced Design track. My name is Neil Cook, and in this session, we'll be discussing custom features, what they are, and how you use them to improve your design process. Let's get started. Here's today's agenda. What are custom features? In a nutshell, custom features can be used to streamline your design workflows through automation and knowledge capture. Custom features can automate many tasks, from simple to extremely complex, and it's this flexibility that makes them so powerful. But what is the technology behind them? We'll take a look at some examples and how easy it is to build custom features. These are the topics we're going to discuss today, and to help me, I have a special guest speaker who will introduce herself in a moment. At the end, there will be an opportunity to ask questions, so please type your questions into the Q&A panel, and our moderator will field the questions directly or put them to us to answer live at the end of this session. Okay, so without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my special guest speaker, Tabetha Bulnes, who is a FeatureScript product owner. And yes, that is her real title at Garrett Advancing Motion. Tabetha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Neil. Hi, I'm Tabetha Bulnes, and I'm a FeatureScript product owner at Garrett Advancing Motion. I have 14 years experience in the engineering field, and in those 14 years, I've been trained in 8 different CAD systems. I've done work starting in 2D using AutoCAD to 3D modeling software such as CATIA, SolidWorks, and of course, the whole reason why we're here today, Onshape. I've been working for Garrett Motion since 2013. I've spent the first part of my career as a designer and a design lead. And for the last 2 years, I've been working as a FeatureScript product owner. And for those who don't know about Garrett Motion, our primary CAD software is Onshape. And it is in Onshape where we continue to tackle some of the biggest challenges in the auto industry, designing our turbochargers, which is our well-established emission reduction products, as well as any of our concept designs for the auto industry. I spent the last decade designing in 2D and 3D, and now I've made the leap from designing to developing custom features in FeatureScript.
Thanks, Tabetha. Now, you mentioned 2 things there, custom features and FeatureScript. There is a subtle difference, and I'd like to outline that difference here. So, do you ever wish that you could change the way your CAD system works, or more importantly, make it do what you want it to do or behave the way you want it to behave? Of course, the answer is absolutely yes, if there should be any level of automation in your day-to-day work. Are you doing the same things over and over? Should geometry be driven by data, and so on? Besides, the A in CAD stands for aided. The computer is supposed to aid you in your design tasks. This doesn't hold true for many off-the-shelf CAD systems because each CAD feature is designed to be generic enough to cover all generic design tasks. So, what if your CAD system could be your ultimate design tool? What if you could reduce repetitive design tasks, build in company or industry-specific logic, capture and reuse company knowledge and experience, and reduce design and manufacturing errors? Well, this is what custom features aim to do. In this example on the screen here of a hydraulic gear pump, there are 2 involute spur gears. Now, gears are created from complex geometry that takes a lot of time to model from scratch. There are a lot of calculations required that are industry-specific, and maybe only 1 or 2 people in your company have the know-how to do this. Any errors in the calculations or modeling can be costly when it comes to manufacturing. Now, I know I could just download a supplier's model, but this is just an example where a custom feature encapsulates all of these benefits. And how do you use them? You just add them to your toolbar and use them just like any other feature. In the image, you can see that the 2 spur gear features are just that, features in the feature list. No programming knowledge is required. If you want to create your own, then of course you'll need to learn FeatureScript, but you don't need a degree in computer science. This is a tool created by engineers for engineers. Custom features are parametric and associative. Parametric meaning that the feature is driven by user-defined parameters or values, and associative meaning that the result of the feature regeneration depends upon or is associated to the geometry of the model. Therefore, custom features understand and react to their surroundings, and since many custom features are designed for a specific task, they understand their application and their purpose. Custom features in Onshape are also treated as first-class citizens. What I mean by this is that Onshape does not care or even know if a feature is a built-in feature or a custom feature. They are treated exactly the same. This means that a custom feature can be suppressed or reordered or even be used in configurations, which gives you a tremendous amount of power and flexibility. Having said all this, it is important to understand that a custom feature is not a macro or UI automation tool. The typical way over the years to customize a desktop CAD system has to be use a separate programming tool like VBA or .NET that access the CAD system's API to build standard features in a certain order. While this method may achieve the results you want, they will only be valid at the time the macro is run, because all it's doing is adding generic features to the model tree. These features may be parametric and associative to a certain degree, but they lack the intelligence of a true CAD feature and will likely break, or worse, break your model when a new version of the CAD system is released. Now, Tabetha, I know you've had a lot of experience with this. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, of course. During my journey from mechanical engineer to FeatureScript product owner, I experienced everything you mentioned plus more. Before I was developing in FeatureScript, I'd say my code development skills were limited. My first introduction to programming language was a year that I spent learning MATLAB during college. From there, I completed a few projects using VBA for Excel professionally, but that was mostly just scraping data out of HTML and converting it into a readable Excel table. I then attempted to create a few macros for a CAD system, but it could be really frustrating. The problem was that it was just a macro. It either ran or would stop halfway through and broke for some reason, and then you had to make a choice of deleting all the macro created components or try to work through the issue and continue on. And because it was just a macro and not a feature, if you needed to make an update to your component, then you really have to understand the CAD to find where in the tree you needed to make that update and what was connected where. And if we were to make a version of the macro, that macro would need to be pushed out to all of our systems. And it would have to be pushed out from our CAD administrators, or we'd have to trust the users to update their machines. This would lead to us having to do audits on our machines to make sure their macros were up to date globally. This, just for the Americas, took hours to check if each computer had the latest code. And as the person whose job it was to check all those computers, I was ready for a change. So when my manager asked me if I'd like to be a tester for this revolutionary new CAD, I said yes, and I became one of the first testers of Onshape as a 2D, 3D software for Garrett Motion. I was then later asked if I was interested in learning FeatureScript, and I of course said yes, with some reservations. For me, FeatureScript was something that felt daunting at first because I didn't feel that I had enough experience in coding to be a FeatureScript developer. But when I saw how much resources was available to me, it was a true game changer. Being able to cross-reference FeatureScript documentation with the standard library source code really helps strengthen the knowledge of how each feature is used. On top of the documentation and source code, Onshape also provides example feature scripts to use and review. Onshape also provides a very active user forum and a wonderful user group meetings that are open to all users and can be anything from discussions and trainings with Onshape employees to other users showing off their models and their latest feature scripts. And just in the user group meetings, there's been so many times where I've been inspired for a new feature script. Onshape has really proven to have a great community surrounding it and is really refreshing when you not only have Onshape employees responding to you in the forums, but they also are very active in the user group meetings. With all of these resources available to me, and while only be doing this as a side project, I was able to release 2 feature scripts in just a short period of time. And one of those feature scripts being this one right here, which was 23 lines of code, yet was incredibly powerful to what we needed to do. And that's with 50% of this code being header and white space. This feature script allowed our design team, while using in-context design, to copy an assembly into a part studio without exporting and re-importing the models, allowing us to maintain updatable links. Today at Garrett Motion, we have over 60 plus released feature scripts and several more in development, as well as applications that we're ready to start rolling out this year. I will show some example of these in a moment. However, because FeatureScript gives us such a competitive advantage, I'm unable to share any proprietary features.
Okay, thanks, Tabetha. It's worthwhile summarizing the differences between custom features in Onshape and a typical macro in a file-based CAD system, just so I can emphasize why custom features are so powerful and why companies like Garrett have come to rely on them. Custom features can only interact with Part Studio data, which makes them very secure. Macros, on the other hand, just record user actions, but can also access the internet and access your local hard drive, so you can never really trust a macro created by a third party. It could be stealing data or transmitting viruses. A custom feature acts like a standard feature, so it can be edited, whereas a macro needs to be rerun with the possibility of incorrect user input and different end results. Custom features never need upgrading and are version controlled using Onshape's built-in data management tools, whereas macros, as Tabetha mentioned, are a nightmare to administer and deploy. And finally, custom features are easy to create. I know that's easy for me to say, that's why I have Tabetha here to back me up. But there's also a built-in IDE or integrated development environment that means you can debug your code in real time. In summary, what this means is that you can use custom features with confidence. I know there is a mindset where some users shy away from anything that is not part of the system, that is not built in, but those people are usually the ones that have been burnt in the past, and I certainly count myself as one of those. Okay, so before Tabetha shows us some examples, let's dig into the technology behind all this, FeatureScript. So what is FeatureScript and why should you care? I deliberately separated the concepts of custom features and FeatureScript, again just to emphasize that you don't need to be a programmer to use them. Many people use the terms interchangeably because FeatureScript is the programming language that powers all features, both built-in and custom. Well, like I said from the very start, you don't have to be a programmer to use custom features or any feature in Onshape for that matter. If you've ever created an extrude, revolve, fillet or plane, you've been using FeatureScript without even knowing it. That's right. FeatureScript is the core technology behind all the modeling tools in Onshape. It's a programming language that we developed specifically for parametric modeling, and we've made it available to everyone to customize their Onshape toolset. And it's not just for Part Studio regeneration. FeatureScript is being rolled out into other areas of the product to enable automation of all kinds. You can see it in action in custom tables, computed part properties, and for enterprise customers in custom workflows. This evolution of FeatureScript will continue with more applications in other areas, but you know better than to ask me what they are. Okay, I'd like to pass it back to Tabetha to show us some of the features she has written for Garrett and to see how these benefit the end user and the business.
Feature scripts are powerful. Feature scripts is helping drive quality within Garrett Motion. And one of the most helpful items that I found in FeatureScript is attributes. I've discussed this before in an Onshape user group meeting, and I'll say it again. Attributes are powerful and will do more than you think they will. We use attributes in so many of our feature scripts. We use attributes to pass information between feature script to feature script, or pass information going from one part studio to the next, which helps us generate casting and machine components, or pass information from feature scripts to applications, or simply to pass information to the user through custom tables. Being able to pass information has made feature scripts more powerful and has decreased the number of clicks for the user. Information can be anything from output information for the user or simply identifying entities that can be used to automate services for something like analysis inputs. The ability to identify these surfaces up front can greatly decrease the time it takes to prepare a model for something like simulation analysis. What once took an engineer a full day to prepare can now be prepared by any team member in minutes. Attributes has allowed models and features to become smarter and creates a new way of building built-in quality into all of our products. Feature scripts and attributes allows us to not just manipulate a model, but to show some analytics of that model. Now we have better control of our products and develop a one best way that is the same between every engineer, no matter where they are in the world, or if they've ever touched a CAD system before. Imagine being able to design on a global scale and be able to eliminate quality issues from passing complex designs between engineers, where it was once so easy to select the incorrect datum, even after reviewing drawings, because the model is just that complex. Now with attributes, we can feed that model with the attribute in one feature script and be able to find that datum surface in the next feature. And by doing this, we open models to non-CAD users because feature scripts can be built off of these attributes and automatically pull the correct selections for the user. And this is what we're seeing here as an example, is a model that is fed an attribute in one feature script. And then in the next feature script, we use editing logic to automatically pull these attributes into queries for the user, eliminating unnecessary clicks and eliminating quality issues. Feature scripts are that powerful. At Garrett Motion, we have over 1,000 active users using Onshape globally. Many of these users have little experience creating in CAD. Since our previous CAD system was limited in the number of licenses, we had to have a dedicated design team that were acting like gatekeepers to our 2D and 3D, and we were forced to do non-value added work whenever a non-CAD user had to have a CAD task that was not directly aligned with the designer's project. Each request outside of the designer's project takes time away from the designer from performing their designing expertise in 3D modeling. With feature scripts, we're closing those gaps with a mentality of building our feature scripts to be CAD for all. It is part of my job to maintain this user experience and work with the challenge of not only managing CAD users globally, but users who have had limited CAD usage. Here we have a few examples of some of the feature scripts that demonstrate how we created a better user experience. Because we have engineers from around the globe, we try to incorporate as many visual aids and help documentations that we can. Here on the top left, we have added visual aids to our version of measurements value feature script that shows exactly how values are calculated, or in our version of circular pattern that allows us to quickly pattern and create pokeyokes in our components. In both of these feature scripts, we took existing feature scripts, whether it was from Onshape or a publicly shared feature script, and customized them to fit our need. Here on the right-hand side, we have examples of feature scripts that we use to drive down cycle time by developing feature scripts that contain our standards in them, making it so there's less chance of quality errors in the model, and making it so that engineers spend less time tracking down the latest standards. These feature scripts also make it possible for users who are new to CAD to be able to create parts that they need without taking away time from design experts. And as a sneak preview to what we'll be rolling out in a future Garrett Motion sprint is this FeatureScript on the bottom left, which is our instructional step-by-step guide. Here, we created a design table that contains all the steps you'll need in a FeatureScript. And in combination with 3 short functions that is just contains an attribute, we were able to call these functions throughout the code. And in these functions reads the design tables to output to the users as if we're simulating walking you through each of your selections. And if that wasn't enough, one of the functions contains the ability to allow the users to derive an image into the Part Studio so that we can provide a visual representation of the step-by-step process. This again, helping us bridge that gap between CAD experts and new users. These are just a small sample of the feature scripts that we have at Garrett Motion and the mentality that drives each of our feature scripts. When we think about creating feature scripts, we're not only focused on standards and quality, but also the user experience behind them. But in the end, if a design or step process is repeatable, then there should be a feature script that's tied to it. So that not only are you reducing cycle time, but we open the design for any team member to create parts. The goal within my team is to make it possible for engineers to have more time to develop new concepts and spend less time focused on repetitive tasks so that they can and should be done by anyone. We want to alleviate the stress of having to do these repetitive motions and allow more time for our engineers to come up with those aha moments in our design. And that is the power of feature scripts within Garrett Advancing Motion. Oh, and for those Garrett Motion employees, in honor of Onshape Live, we will be doing the biggest release that we've had internally yet, with 6 feature scripts and 6 applications being released today.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tabetha. So now you've seen some of the things that can be done with FeatureScript. Where should you go next? First, be brave and start using custom features in your day-to-day work. It could save you hours. If you want to create your own, learn FeatureScript. A new training course is under development and will appear in the Learning Centre soon. There is also plenty of help if you need it. One of the things Tabetha mentioned was the resources available. There are plenty of examples and there are numerous experts on the forum who are always willing to help. If you'd rather have somebody else write your custom features for you, then please speak to your account executive who will be able to put you in touch with an Onshape partner who specializes in customization. The best way to learn FeatureScript is to identify a real-world use case that is specific to you or could help your colleagues. Just writing a random feature that you'll never use will not get you to understand how to build a usable feature with an intuitive UI. So if you want to add extra capabilities to the extrude feature, go ahead. Or if you just want to reduce mouse clicks, that's also a good way to learn FeatureScript. As you get more confident, you can start to build some amazing features like the ones Tabetha has shown us today. Building a feature couldn't be easier. Let's see how quick it really can be. Okay, so I'll switch over to Onshape here, and these are just some of my feature scripts that I've written over the years. But when you open a document, and in this case I've only got one part studio, very simple model here. If you want to create a feature script, like I say, the integrated development environment is built in. You just need to go to Create Feature Studio, right there above Render Studio, and that will create a new tab for you and pre-populate that with the latest library version. To make it easier, there are code snippets. So across the top here, so if I want to create a new feature, I'm going to call this thing pocket fillet. Perhaps it's something I do all day, every day, fillet pockets. And, I just want to give it, let's just give that a name. And in this area here, we define the user interface. And again, I can use some of these options here, which are going to build out the code for me. So if I put in a query here, and a query is basically what the user selects. Okay, so we're saying we want a type face selection maximum picks 1, and I'll just give that a dedicated name of face. And the other thing important to fillets, of course, is the actual fillet value. So I'll call that radius, shorten that to rad, and that's the user input. The second part of the script there is for feature regeneration. Again, everything is because it's integrated development environment. Everything is built in, so you've got all these snippets and command completion, so you don't necessarily have to go back to the documentation each time. I'm going to create a fillet. Op fillet is one of the built-in commands that is used to construct geometry. Anything that begins with op is constructing geometry. So I'm not going to go into exactly what an ID is, but essentially we'll say, what are the entities? Well, the entities are the face that the user selected, okay, and the radius is the radius that the user selected, okay. As it stands right there, though, it's only going to fillet the one face that the user selected. So now we can start to compound queries and build them up to make more intelligence. One of the queries, for example, if I type Q, is going to list all the queries that are available, and there are a lot. But one of the ones I want to use is concave connected faces. So basically what I'm saying here is from the face that the user selected, find all faces that are concave to it. Okay, that is it. There's my feature. 21 lines of code, mostly white space, as Tabetha mentioned. It's very easy to create these things. Okay, so let's go back to the Part Studio. And also, like I mentioned as well, you can have these on two different screens. So as you're developing the code, you can see the model update in real time. My new feature now appears here, okay, because it's still under development. It's in this document. So now if I just go in here, let's just make that 5 mil. Let's pick the bottom of this pocket. It's going to go ahead and fillet all those edges, okay. And of course, it's parametric, so we can change it to be whatever size we want. But what really gives the power of Onshape, that really that's really saved a lot of time already, is that if there is a particular design change. So what if somebody goes in here and edits this sketch here with this pocket, and we let's put a circle on here. Now, if this was a macro, we've now introduced a whole host of new edges, and the macro wouldn't pick those up, so the design would be wrong. With FeatureScript, though, because it is rebuilding it as part of the feature, you can see that those fillets, those edges that are concave faces relative to that pocket, were automatically found and filleted, and everything works as you would expect. And this is really the power of FeatureScript, in that it is a custom feature that, as far as Onshape concerned, it is a regular feature. Now, you can keep those features to yourself. If you want to share them with other people, you just do it through the share dialog, either to individuals by putting in their email address, into teams within your company, the whole company, or if you're being particularly benevolent, then you can share it publicly and then post on the forum the URL and some simple instructions, and everybody will be able to use your FeatureScript from there. Okay, if you want to add somebody else's FeatureScript, it will just appear on this menu. So I've got quite a few in there. Let me just scroll down the bottom. So there's add custom features. This will open this dialog here. So FeatureScript samples is basically features which have been written by Onshape employees. Again, there's quite a few in there. Community Spotlight is a collection of features that have been created by customers that we've deemed are excellent, and we've added those in there. So again, there's a lot in there. And of course, you can just browse through the public library, or if you have the actual URL to a public feature, you can just paste it in there and then add it to your toolbar. And then once it's added to your toolbar, you can just use it. So if you're just using one of well, I'm not going to choose one, but if you want to use it, it's then on your toolbar, and then it appears in every document from then on. Okay, so that's all we have at this time. So I'd like to hand it now over to the moderator to see if we have any questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tabetha, so much. Thank you, Neil. We have a few questions from the group here that we'd love to have you answer if possible. And I'll try to go in a little bit of an order here. Let me start with a simple one, probably for you here, Tabetha. Could you share what was your biggest challenge in learning FeatureScript?
Yeah, sure. So I started 2 years ago learning FeatureScript, and back then it was still pretty fresh and new. And what I found the biggest challenge was going through the long list of queries and trying to figure out, all right, I need to grab this one edge, but how do I get to that edge if the user selecting this other face over here? And so just trying to go through those queries and trying to get those combination of different queries really took maybe a couple days just going through those. But what's great about Onshape is they're always improving. And one thing that they've improved on is they've released this feature script called Query Explorer, and it is saved on my toolbar. And if you're interested in learning FeatureScript or your experience in FeatureScript, it should be saved on yours as well, because it saves so much time to be able to just quickly go through the Query Explorer and see where my issue is on why am I not picking up what I thought I was. And instead of doing 20 commits to figure out why my one query wasn't working, I can now go through the Query Explorer and say, oh, okay, that's where I made the mistake, as I was using this one query when I should have been using another filter to do my query.
Absolutely, a great tip with the Query Explorer for any newer users getting going with custom features. Thank you. Neil, I think this one might be for you. So Tabetha mentioned the custom features are really being sort of a competitive advantage for them. So Drove asks, is it possible to share or license custom features for use by other users or companies?
Yeah, so we don't have a mechanism as such now to actually license them, but certainly to share them for other companies. That can be done either through the share dialog. If you're giving it out to everybody, then you can just make it public. But if it is for you write a feature script and you want to give it to just your client, then you can share it with them either through emails for individual users in that company, or you could actually let them take a copy. If they've paid you to create that, then they can take a copy of it and then maintain it that way.
Fantastic. A couple different options for you there. Hopefully that answers that question. Tabetha, another one for you here. What has been the easiest and hardest feature script you have created so far? If you're able to speak about them, of course.
Well, so easiest would be probably the first one I did was 23 lines of code. As you can see, it was pretty short, and it was still very powerful for what we needed. And so I would probably say that was the easiest one that I've written. The hardest one, well, Garrett's been around for longer than I've been alive. So we have stacks and stacks of standards in our backlog. And so really trying to make feature scripts that are custom to ourselves and our standards, and making sure that we're following those standards in the feature script. But we also want to make sure that it's easy to update in the future if we find a way to, if we go over there and we have new standards that we want to build off of this. So we want to make sure that we're following the standards, but at the same time that it's going to be easy to update in the future.
Fantastic. And keeping with you for a second here, Tabetha, you spoke a little bit about FeatureScript attributes being a powerful piece. Could you expand on that a little bit? The question, do you mean you can programmatically link parts in different Onshape documents with these type of parameters in them?
So it's when you usually go from a derive part. When you derive a part into a part studio, it maintains any attributes, properties of that part. So when you have an attribute in one part studio, you can be identifying like datums. When you go into the next part studio, you can still pull those attributes in another feature script to say, okay, find these datums, now do these next operations. And having that link really makes it easier to create these automations of here's my casting, here's my machining. All I need to know is the datums between them, and it makes it a lot easier that way.
Fantastic, thank you. Neil, perhaps this one's for you. Can you speak about any differences between creating a feature script and an application?
Yeah, okay, so so there's the big difference between, we've effectively got two APIs, if you like. One is FeatureScript, which is focused on feature regeneration. I know we're using it in other areas, like I mentioned during the presentation, but it's focused mainly on Part Studio regeneration. Whereas the Onshape API, the REST API, really gives you access to everything in Onshape. So you could, extract an assembly bomb. You could build an assembly using the API. You'd have the API use feature scripts to build part models programmatically as well. So the API is really a separate application which talks to Onshape over the internet and then has Onshape do stuff. So either import or export data, and when I say data, well, it can be 3D models, but typically, part properties, bills of materials, that kind of thing, part numbers. If you want to connect Onshape to an ERP system, then again, you can use the API to transmit data backwards and forwards.
Perfect. Yeah, and sort of somewhat related to that question was, does FeatureScript support external API calls? And I think sort of from your answer, you're saying that that would more be done via the API.
Yes, it would. I mean, one of the fundamental things of FeatureScript is that it's a sandbox. So it can only, while it can access geometry in the Part Studio, it can't modify the parameters of another feature. Okay, so it can only modify itself. So it only regenerates itself. But it can modify all the geometry because that exists before it in the feature list. But it is a total sandbox, so it can't write to your hard drive or do any kind of malicious code.
Fantastic. And then we have a couple of questions with regard to macros. Now, we talked about the difference between custom features and macros sort of at the beginning of the session. But one piece that's brought up is the capability to record macros. Do you think that this is something that could be available with custom features in the future, to be able to do in the Part Studio graphics area, for example?
Well, never say never, shall we say, but there is no current plans to do that, simply because the way FeatureScript works, especially with the queries, it doesn't really lend itself to recording because, the thing with a macro is it works well with the example that it was built on, but you try to use that macro on something completely different and it generally doesn't work very well. Whereas FeatureScript, because of the language that we use, it's very adaptable for different types of models. So like I say never, but there's nothing planned.
Hopefully someday for those of us who are less programming inclined, of course. One more for you here, Tabetha. I'm wondering if you can attribute how much time savings or efficiency gains to some of your proprietary custom features, especially if you're able to quantify it.
I think I did note that one of our feature scripts went from being a full day's work for one of our designers and now is being shrunken down to minutes for anyone to use now. We're no longer having that need for a designer to do a specific task. We're opening it up. So it's not just about cycle time, but having the ability that anyone can do it. It's not just an expert, maybe 2 or 3 people know how to do something. It's, hey, anyone should be able to pick this up, be able to select the right surfaces, input the numbers, and have a working model ready.
Fantastic, thank you. Great questions from the group, by the way, guys. Please continue to get them in if you do have any questions as we reach the end of the session here. One more for you here, Tabetha. How do you decide which features that you should be working on next?
Well, there's a few different ways we go about it. User experience, we are a very global company. So sometimes we're taking existing features that maybe Onshape has and we're expanding on them, customizing them so that we're a little bit more friendly with our global teams. Other examples are standards. If there's a standard, there should be a feature script for it, so that we're not spending time having our engineers go through pages and pages of standards. They should be able to open a feature script and it's already available to them with the latest standards there. Also, I like to sit in on the user group meetings, and they come up with some unique problems sometimes, and in those meetings I'll have an aha moment of, I can write a feature script for that. Or during our design meetings here internally, there might be some questions around it, and my thought is, well, why didn't you just write a feature script for this? And that's because I haven't done it yet, and next time I talk to them, I package them a little feature script for it. But those would probably be the places I generally come up with our ideas and why we have such a large backlog of feature scripts.
Fantastic. One more, is FeatureScript based on some other programming language? What pre-existing skills would be transferable? And maybe I'll spin this question a little bit. If we wanted to have someone like you, Tabetha, join a team and really be an expert in FeatureScript, what background should we be looking for? And perhaps Neil, you could chime in on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I came in with experience in MATLAB and Visual Basic. So I didn't really have a whole lot of different coding abilities, but yes, I was still able to pick it up. What I found that it was most similar to is that if I Googled stuff based on like JavaScript, I could find a lot of what I needed there. And so that's where I found a lot of my help there. But really, if you go through the Onshape source code, most of it's already there written for you, and you can build off of those to create what you need. So it's just really having that understanding of how code mindset is, of knowing what are the basic skills of coding, and then being able to play off of that. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, I agree. So JavaScript there's a lot of constructs that are similar to JavaScript, and that's probably the closest language to it. But it is our own language, and the reason we adopted our own language is because we could have better control of the parametric modeling. That's what it's there for, rather than just being a generic JavaScript. And of course, JavaScript can do malicious things, so we want to avoid that as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And one last question for today here. We touched on this a little bit throughout the presentation, but I think no better way than to conclude by answering this question. For a true beginner, what is really the best place we should get started if we want to write our own custom features?
Well, I think Neil mentioned that there will be a new tutorial on FeatureScripts coming. So that's going to be I think, a big help in there. And I know I've been asked to look over it in the future. So we'll see if I'll be able to put some input on that. But there's that. There's already in some of the documentation a small tutorial there. And I know I went through that when I first started. And that really helps. Going through forums, maybe there's something that you want to do and someone's already came up with either a solution or the problem in the past, or if it's something brand new, you can always ask your question and someone will come back with a solution, and just learning from experience.
Totally agree. Okay, all right, thanks. So we're out of time, so we'd like to wrap up now. So really, I'd just like to extend a big thank you to everybody for joining us, and I'd also like to extend a huge thank you to Tabetha for joining us today and sharing her experiences with us. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.